Don't let them win you over, that's what they're hoping for. They want to shutter your mind and shackle it to the floor. It's not hard to figure out the lies you're being told. There is a playbook, an agenda, a blueprint, a goal. So open your eyes wide enough to see you're the target they are aiming for. You're the enemy. Now in order to defeat them and take back what is yours, you must expose what is evident, what is clearly coming forth. There is a good, there is a bad, there is a sad.
Hi, I'm Sam Chaney, and we're broadcasting to you tonight from Fresno, California, CMAC Studios. It's December 5th, 2012. This is We Are Change Fresno TV. I'm here with my co-host Charlie in the Box.
What's up?
And my gracious guest, Dan Yaseen.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us, Dan. So a little bit of follow-up about how we were just addressing on the piece that we just shot about how we're being listed by the Southern Poverty Law Center as being terrorists just for speaking out and using our First Amendment here and trying to spread information, alternative information that's out of the mainstream. And so we're gonna come back to that as the interview goes along to tie it into some experiences that Dan has had with his activism. But Dan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and let our audience know who you are?
Briefly, my name is Dan Yaseen, and I'm a local peace and justice activist. I became activist after 9/11, after I saw what our government has done, the official story they told us, which I never believed, and then they attacked Afghanistan. So that really made me come out and speak against. I'm locally active with 3 different groups, Peace Fresno, Center for Nonviolence, and Community Alliance newspaper, and I have a monthly radio show called Speaking Truth to Empire on KFCF 88.1 FM.
Okay, so now I want to give everybody a chance to explain where they stand politically so you can understand where we're coming from, and you can see that we're trying to offer the broadest range of perspective that we can, because we need to open the debate, and nothing is closed and as it is, as they say on television. We need to open the debate and see all the sides. So let me address that myself personally. I am you could say, if you want to put me in a box, a libertarian constitutionalist. I would say that really I'm more of an anarchist, because I don't even believe that the government is doing anything but operating a criminal enterprise at this point, and so they need to be taken down, and they're going to collapse through their own corruption. I mean, it's obvious, but hopefully we can stave that off, get a stable government, follow the rule of law, and get back to following the Constitution and having a prosperous country. So Charlie, where do you stand politically?
I'm like somewhat the same, libertarian constitutionalist. I believe in equal rights for everybody, from the rich people to the people at the bottom. I know, like most people, we have a feeling something's wrong. So politically, I think today, in America especially, people, they've always told us to not bring up politics and don't talk about religion, because you're going to start an argument. But you're going to see today with a person that doesn't agree with me politically, but there's a lot of stuff that we can agree on. So we do need to talk about these issues. We need to talk to one another, because see, we'll find out a lot of things we do have in common. How about you?
Well, I'm progressive, and I'm probably left of not only these 2 people here, I'm left of all Democrats. I am, most important issue for me is really stopping these wars that we are engaged in so many places, and trying to dominate the world. And the other big issue for me is the economic exploitation, or in other words, globalization, or the rule of the 1%. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward, and those are noble causes to be standing up for there, Dan. So yeah, the next topic. So you're coming from the left. We're kind of coming from the right. If they want to put us in that box, but we're just all people here trying to spread the information, trying to get you to widen your perspective and say, well, no, maybe these guys are wrong, or maybe he's wrong, or maybe I need to look it up and think for myself. And that's what you need to do: is look it up, form your own opinions, do your research, think for yourself. So as Dan mentioned, globalization, this new world order, that's their words now, the elites' new world order that they're bringing in, globalization, is we're just seeing it destroy our country. And so to me, what it means is, it means less jobs, lower standard of living, and exploitation of all workers. And so they try to tell us that we're in a capitalist system. This is not capitalism. It's like this weird hybrid of capitalism, socialism, communism. Who knows? It's an ism, right? But we know that myself personally, as a working man, it does not benefit me. And I don't have a problem giving to the less fortunate, but I know that the taxes I pay are not going there. They're going to service interest on the debt brought to you by the Federal Reserve. So that's a little bit about what the New World Order means to me. And like Dan said, perpetual war. I mean, they've announced this war on terror is now, we're in perpetual war. That's never-ending war. That's right out of the novel 1984. If you don't remember, go back and look it up. This is very Orwellian, the position that they put us in. So that's what the New World Order means to me, is just Orwellian science fiction nightmare. Charlie, what does it mean to you?
Globalization, well, globalization means to me is loss of liberties, bringing in future generations of bondage, slavery. I know a lot slavery that brings bad feelings to certain people because around the world, they live it today. African Americans, that was hundreds of years ago, people, but today it's true that what we're passing on to our kids is a debt unlike any country's ever seen before. And when you owe somebody, like a loan shark or a government or any kind of entity, now you're a slave and a work minion. You're like a rat in the cage to do whatever they want with you, because now they hold you. And whenever we allow a government or a group of people to control a monetary system, that's our money, or to control global, worldwide, like with the UN, of rules and laws, where they're not going to care about yours in Fresno, California. They're not going to care about your rights in Texas or Arizona or Washington, D.C. That's where we lose our liberties. Through the UN, through globalization, through Agenda 21, you lose your property. They want to confine us in small groups of areas where to live in, and there's places where you're not going to be able to go. So globalism, New World Order, is bad things for future generations, for our kids. The only way we turn things around is today. If we stand up, today we start talking about these issues, and we sit down with each other, and we make a difference. So globalization, New World Order, is tyranny, very bad, and you're not going to want that for your kids. What does it mean to you?
Well, globalization is a multi-meaning word. To begin with, globalization basically stands for people of the world, different parts of the world. As the technology improved, people started doing trades with each other, cultural and social and economic barriers were lifted, and people were trading with each other. So that's what the initial idea of globalization was. But globalization and New World Order are the concepts that became prominent in the US parlance after the fall of the Soviet Union. After that, the people in the ruling elite, they decided that they do not want any country to ever come close to United States power. So the concept of global supremacy or full spectrum dominance started, and that's where the war, immediately after the fall of the Soviet Empire, we had the Persian Gulf War, and then later the Iraq War and other wars that are going on right now. So globalization is now tied in with that concept. So we are doing two things. We are trying to dominate economically as well as militarily, and it just they using them together to. They want to get the oil of certain places. We go attack them first and destroy everything, and then so we can control their oil. So that's what that it means to me.
What he just said right there, they tied all the countries economically together, trade. See, there's a phrase called mutually insured economic global collapse. Look it up. These things that are really happening today. And there's gonna be a loss of a lot of liberties, countries worldwide. And that's why they put us into this war. That's why they put us into famine, droughts, and all these different things. But let's get back to our thing, because I'm gonna keep talking. Trust me, I could.
So yeah, okay, the mainstream is gonna tell you that, okay, it's the progressives' fault. And then the progressives are gonna turn around and say, well, it's the conservatives' fault. And we're sitting here as the alternative media with conservatives and progressives at the same table telling you it's the New World Order's fault, all right? The global elite behind globalization, it's their fault because like Dan said, they never want to see another country rise up to be a superpower and be sovereign and independent from their control. And that is what they're doing with this whole globalization system, is not raise everybody up, it's bring everybody down. And so we're going to see a massive decrease in our standard of living very soon if we don't start understanding monetary policy. And the wars, I mean, the wars are just killing us. So Dan, you know, you talked about how 9/11 really opened your eyes, and that's the event that opened my eyes. It took me a lot longer than you because at that time I was believing the government lies. But so to me, that is where they get the justification for the war on terror is 9/11. And so can you explain a little bit about what the war on terror is?
Well, war on terror is really, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's really a hoax. How do you define terror? Terrorism or terror is defined when you attack civilians to attain certain purpose. Our government defines terrorism only when the other side is doing it. But when we are doing it, or any of people in our forces are doing it, then that's not defined as terrorism. It's what the other people do. When they resist our war, like people in Iraq did and people in Afghanistan are doing it, so they become the terrorists. So, and then when we come to war on terror, to me war on terror is really not a real war, because real wars or traditional wars had a beginning, they had beginning and they had end. That's what wars are, when one side surrenders, okay? The war is over. But this war in terror, like Sam said earlier, is gonna last forever. That's what they are saying. It's kind of like war on poverty, war on drugs. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever we declare war on, it increases. We don't ever win. Poverty has not disappeared. Drugs have not disappeared, because that's an ongoing war, and terrorism is not going to disappear because it's done not only by individuals, whatever you want to call them, Taliban or Al-Qaeda, or they come up with mostly very, very fancy names, or it is done by our government or NATO or by Israel. It is still terrorism. And if it is terrorism, and as far as I'm concerned, this war on terror is just going to last forever.
So yeah, as long as we let them lie to us and we sit back here and believe it, then it will last forever, until we stand up and say, no, you're lying, and we're not going along with these illegal foreign wars of aggression any longer. It's not going to stop. And so we had George Bush, our great conservative president, after 9/11 declare a war on terror. How do you declare a war on a fighting tactic in warfare? You don't. It's nonsense, people. Come on, wake up. The only terrorists are the ones that have been fomented by the United States intervention in the Middle East, all right? And so you want to talk a little bit about what the war on terror, about how you define it? Because it's really hard to understand. How do you declare a war on a tactic of warfare?
Well, you want to know the truth. The only thing I can say about the war on terror is if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it has to be a freaking duck, right? Okay. we went into the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they said it's because of 9/11, right? And we could go on a big breadbasket of 9/11, but let's look at this war. We're in a war that our kids are going to in the thousands every year. But as you could tell, for the last, 11 years, we haven't finished it. The capabilities of the American government tapping our phones and eavesdropping on Americans, you think this war wouldn't be over today? There isn't no war on terror, people. It's an endless supply of laundering money. That's all it is. That's why there will never be an end to it. So today, terrorist, who's a terrorist today? Well, you're looking at one. We told you guys. The Southern Poverty Law Centers that said we are changed in patriot groups. People talking about liberty, freedom, or just bringing this information to you guys. That's who are terrorists today. Our returning war veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, they're walking terrorists today. That's not my words. That's the Department of Homeland Security. Look it up. So is there a war on terror? No. There's a war on the American people. There's a war on the people of the world. And like Sam said, it's to bring us all down. It's to get us in a cage like a rat and to set us up because they know about this new world government being issued right now, being ordered right now. So there isn't a war on terror. There isn't a war against foreign terrorists. It's just a war on the average person globally. That's my opinion on it. How about you, sir? What are we talking about next?
well, how did they bring us the war on terror? They brought us the war on terror through false flag terrorism, which is a commonly known tool used by governments to implement their agenda.
Look it up.
Okay, it's historically documented up one side, down the other. Okay, so look up false flag terrorism. It's when the government goes in and they act like their enemy attacked them when it was really themselves that attacked themselves. So a perfect example is Hitler bombed his own Reichstag, which is his own Congress building, and then said that his enemies did it. And so that's a perfect excuse to give him power, establish a dictatorship, and go to war. And we saw the exact same script on 9/11 read to us by George Bush. Come on, people. This is old. It's sad. It's sick. Come on, wake up. We're reliving the same script, all right? So our current war on terror was brought to us by the false flag event of 9/11. So Dan, who benefits from the war on terror?
The 1%. As I guess both of you have said earlier, that the whole concept of these wars is to benefit the military-industrial complex. Ongoing wars, that's what they do. The only thing we produce now in this country, everything else has been outsourced. There's hardly any manufacturing left, and which started happening, by the way, way before 9/11 and even before the fall of the Soviet. It started with Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. They started the globalization, or what Margaret Thatcher called TINA. There is no alternative. So they starting outsourcing jobs, manufacturing jobs, and it has taken that long, and now we are into what some people call a new normal, where the standard of living here has gone down and it keeps going down. And so the beneficiary are the ruling elite, or the 1% in Occupy Wall Street term. By the way, Occupy Wall Street was called terrorist also by our federal authorities.
Yeah.
So they're calling American people, just regular people who want to use their First Amendment, speak their mind, terrorists. Come on, people, wake up. The real terrorists are the ones that are calling those people that want to use their First Amendment terrorists. Come on, it's simple. Please, just wake up.
I want to make a comment about who's benefiting from these wars. There's a lot of, like I heard our guests there now, are the 1%. I think a lot of people get confused about the rich. See, the rich today, the people like you see on TV, these average stars, these rappers, whatever, they have a lot more money than me and you, but they're not the 1%. The 1% are like the Bill Gates and the Oprahs, global entities. And that's not just Americans' issues. Those are not just Americans 1%. It's a global 1%. So that's what really people have to understand. Because there's corporations and there's mega corporations. And there's a big difference. Like, so I said, the rich and then the mega rich, the corporation and the mega corporations. So the 1%, I think that we, across this border here, we agree on that the exact same thing, saying, yeah, those 1% guys, we do have an issue with them, because those are the ones that are holding the power. Those are the ones that own the Federal Reserve and that are implementing Agenda 21 and all this false flag terrorism and holding all the chips in this game that we're playing right now. But in the end, we'll win. I promise you guys that. So what's next?
So we're in these wars. How long are they going on now? 10, 15 years? The wars just go on. It seems like the American public doesn't even realize that, oh yeah, the U.S. military is involved in foreign wars. And so how many wars are we currently involved in now, Dan?
Oh, it depends upon, see, that's like Bill Clinton said, what's the definition of is. It's all the matter of how do you define war. United States currently has over 1,000 bases in over 100 countries. And I think something recently came out that we have, special forces, not just forces, that special forces in like over 70 countries also. And they are active in Africa, they are active in, so it's really hard to come up with how many people, how do you define war? Obama does not want to call the attack on Libya war. That was not war because there was no American soldiers were involved. But it was definitely a war when you are killing people, whether you use drone or robots or whatever. You attack a country, you kill their people, that is a war as far as definition is concerned. So it's really hard for me to come up with exact number. How many countries we have military actively doing something? In Colombia, they are active. So there are many countries they are active.
So Libya, obviously Afghanistan, Iraq, we got people on the border of Iran, North Korea. Where else are we at?
Oh, we are doing drone attacks on Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. So that's, that's act of war.
That's 8 right there, people. And they're telling you we're in just 2 right now. Come on, America. There's a lot of things going on that the other TV stations that you guys are used to watching aren't telling you guys that. So we're gonna do our best to cover all these topics. What's next one?
Wow, that's a lot of wars. And so we're at the point in this Orwellian nightmare that we can't even, the government's not even defining what war is. We define it, I personally define it as the government using force against people for no reason, right? And so that's what they're doing in these wars, is they're using this force against people. And so the next, so why is war a crime, Dan?
Well, depending, there is no international agreement that calls war a crime, except there have been in the history when they really, in 1928, there was a pact signed after the devastation of the First World War. French foreign minister and U.S. Secretary of State, I think his name was Kellogg, and Bryan was the name of the French foreign minister, and they worked out something called Kellogg-Bryan Pact, which was initially signed by 15 countries, which outlawed war. They outlawed war, that there, should be no war. And then ultimately, I think there were 62 nations that ratified that. But what happened right after that? We got involved in the World War II, and the problem with that was there was no enforcement mechanism. So there is war crimes, but the concept that whether war is a crime, it is a crime against humanity, it is a crime against people, it is a crime against less developed countries. It's just unimaginable when we are attacking one of the poorest country in the world, in Afghanistan, who does not have a navy, doesn't have any air force, and we go and we use them, use our most modern advanced equipment and just attack them. So that's just not even a fair, it's just defined, it's just a slaughter.
It is.
It's not even a war. It's
It
just
is.
how do you define war is the question. We call it war on Afghan war, but what we did was just unjust, immoral, and illegal by any, because our Congress did not declare that war. So yes, it was a crime.
Yep, it was.
Wow. So yeah, these unconstitutional, undeclared wars are a crime, and like Dan said, it's just a slaughter. I mean, I guess we are redefining war because they can't even possibly fight back against the technology, against carpet bombing, and against the drones, and against satellites. I mean, how can these people that live in caves possibly fight back or even be a threat? I mean, come on. So it's ridiculous at this point that the Obama administration and back to Bush, you'd probably call the whole American federal government all the way back to the founding, but we'll just go back to Bush and we'll call them out right now as being war criminals, all right? And so the Bush administration, everyone involved in it, and the Obama administration are war criminals, and you will be brought to justice someday, all right? All right, so the next topic here for you, Dan, I got a question about, can you explain a little bit about how, you know, the Anglo American Establishment went into the Middle East with the English Empire, and how they used this balkanization to divide all the people up and cause all this chaos, to use it as a means of control?
Well, I guess as you mentioned, the British Empire, so that's where it starts, and of course you have to go back in the history. The biggest problem, okay, it's end of the Ottoman Empire in right after World War I. That's when it happened, and it has been dying for some time, and it finally happened. And then Britain and France, some part, but mostly Britain, started controlling everything. And at the same time, the Zionist movement had started in the late 1800s, and they pressured Britain, and in 1917, Balfour Declaration was done by the British Parliament and I think Foreign Minister. And that basically is the foundation of the State of Israel, and that has created all the problem. Britain, when they were the empire, they drew a map of Middle East. That's what they wanted. And since we took over the empire after the World War II, the world control, now we are trying to redraw it in what we want. So yes, that is part of the problem. The most of the problems that are there were started with the British Empire, and now we are there and we are causing those problems.
You want to explain a little bit about the dynamics, the difference between the people's understanding, you know, because here all we get is those are terrorists and they look different than us and they wear these turbans on their heads, so that must mean they're bad and we need to go kill them. And so they're all Muslims that are evil, that hate America for their freedom is the propaganda that the television's telling me. And so I understand that most people see that and they are scary, in the way that it's framed maybe makes us say that, oh yeah, those people do deserve that. So can you explain a little bit about how these people are, the majority of them are religious, and the different religions, and how that ties together, and they're not all just Muslim terrorists that hate America for their freedom?
Well, I guess you're too young to remember that, but in the 80s, when Reagan was president, he had the same Muslim people in turbans, invited them in the White House, and he compared them with our founding fathers, because at that time we had recruited them and we have trained them and we have poured in tens of billions of dollars in Pakistan and Afghanistan to train them to fight against Soviet Union, because that was our enemy number one. So at that time, so all of a sudden it's a turnaround, 180-degree turn, and then the same people, or now these people are the children of the same people that were fighting the Soviets. Some of the older leaders are still around that did fight in that war, and they are still active. We got Soviet Union defeated, and we just left, and that place has been chaos. One thing earlier I said that yes, we are declaring war on the third world countries, but to understand the dynamics of Afghanistan, the people of Afghanistan has never surrendered to any foreign invasion, going back to the Alexander the Great time, and they have fought all invaders. They defeated British Empire, and British were able to control all India, but they were just not able to go past the northwestern area of Pakistan into Afghanistan, and there was a line, and there was just wars, and those people back 40-50 years ago, they used to just make those rifles homemade. They used to fight with those, so they have a tradition, and the modern equipment started right with the war, Soviet war, and when we got involved and started supplying them guns, so now they have modern weapons, but still they are fighting guerrilla war, so they cannot fight traditionally against the U.S., but it's a guerrilla war is what they are doing, yeah.
I think that people in Iran, people in Afghanistan, average people like me and you, have a husband or wife, want to go to work, want to farm or whatever they're doing. They're just like us as Americans. There's no difference, people. Their government is doing the exact same thing that our government's doing to us. But the bad thing is their government's in bed with ours. Iran, the people of Iran, they always tell you, oh, they want to get these global nuclear weapons, and they want to nuke us. They're going to kill us. Yeah, they're going to kill us. They're going to kill us, dude. Isn't that how you guys feel? But you ask the people, look at them. So I tell you the honest truth. This is being honest. I'd rather sometimes stand with one of these Iranian women that are holding up the flags, holding up freedom, than some of these Americans that just want to be on welfare and stand in a Social Security line or a welfare line or a WIC line. Because those people know what freedom is all about, and they're willing to risk their lives for it. They see tyranny on their front door in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Egypt today. They're just people just like me and you, but they want their voice heard. But today in America, we're letting ours be silenced. Come on, people. Those people are no different than any of us. We shouldn't be quieted just because we want to tell you guys these things. But it's the truth. Those people are just hardworking people that want a better future for their kids. Because isn't that what you say? What's the next topic, Sam?
The next topic, we're still in the war. That topic's not going to end, but something on our outline here that I thought is of great concern is that one of the primary reasons that we are in Afghanistan, the United States, is for the global heroin trade, the opium trade. You can go on YouTube and search for Geraldo Rivera interviews troops in Afghanistan, and you'll see a news piece that he did where they openly admit that yes, U.S. troops are there in Afghanistan guarding the opium fields. And so that's pretty sick because they're protecting it for the import to the United States and the rest of the world. And so that's part of what this empire is doing with their war in Afghanistan is it's helping them to propagate the global drug trade.
Yep.
And so that's something that no mainstream media is going to tell you, except for we have these brief clips with the Geraldo. But he tried to spin it like maybe it was a good thing, and they had to do this to fend off the Taliban being the drug dealers. But it's all a bunch of garbage. It's because, you go look at the clip and you judge for yourself. They openly admit that the U.S. is now there guarding the opium fields. So Dan, how many with this drug trade? I mean, that seems to be they go steal the resources, and they also are fueling this drug trade. So this empire is pure evil. I mean, it's obvious. We kill people with impunity. How many wars are planned for the future?
How many wars are planned for the future?
Yeah.
Well, you have to look at the history. U.S. has always been at war since our founding. The only difference is that in the beginning, immediately after our founding, we used to fight against the Native Americans. Those wars lasted 100 years. We were fighting against this tribe, that tribe, and as we were moving west, we were just killing those people at that time. And then we moved into Central South America, and then we just We used to go and send our Marines to Costa Rica, to Guatemala, to Nicaragua. So that's been going on. And there used to be a website, I've not been able to find it, that had each and every year in there, and you click on that year and it will tell you where US forces were involved.
Are you serious?
I am serious. I used to know that thing a couple of years ago, and then when I try to go back, it's just no longer there. But that's, I mean, it just, we are always fighting with somebody, attacking somebody. I think we have attacked 50 or 60 countries since even World War II. It just, some of them are small ones that don't make the news that much, and some of them are big wars. So it just, like we said about the war on terror earlier, just they just want to keep on using that as an excuse to control, keep on doing our wars. So it's hard to tell how many wars we're going to have, but we'll always have wars as far as our government is concerned.
And we're going to keep having wars until you as the public raise your consciousness level and realize that it's all a fraud. These people are not our enemies. The global elite at the top are keeping us divided and fighting for their own benefit, not for ours. These people are no different, like Charlie said, than you and I. They want to earn a living, have a family, and be prosperous in life and do the right thing. There's not a... People, please, just go do... We'll give you... You'll see the links at the bottom here. Just read a couple of these stories, do a little bit of research about the meddling of the West, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The next thing here is, you know, if we're following the Constitution like we're supposed to, according to the political science class I took at university, Congress is supposed to declare war to make it constitutionally, to make it legal. So when was the last time that Congress actually declared war?
1941.
What?
1941?
41? Serious?
They declared war first on Japan after the Pearl Harbor, and then Germany, and I think Italy. Later on, the Congress passed war resolution against, and probably Hungary also, 3 or 4 war resolutions. So after that, none of the war has been Congress. The way war happens now, presidents send the troop first, or they just Congress just rubber stamps whatever president decides. So it's not, they don't discuss ahead of time, and Congress is given all the facts and have a discussion and then decide to declare the war. Usually it happens and Congress just puts its stamp of approval and give an authorization, but not formal declaration of war.
See, people, how do you take something from somebody without them knowing it? Don't teach it to them. See, if the American people knew that Congress sends us to war, we wouldn't be in all these wars. All these wars they're war crimes, like we said earlier. They're unconstitutional. It shouldn't be happening. But it's because the American people don't know the law, they don't know the rules, they don't understand a republic, that all these unlawful things happen to us. Just like the power to tax is the power to destroy. There's a lot of information that we want to share to you guys. So just keep tuning in each and every week, because we keep going with this. So where are we going?
So why is it important that Congress declares war? Well, it's important because Congress, if we're following the Constitution, Congress has to answer to the people because we're a representative republic. And so theoretically, if your representative votes for war and you don't want it, then you're going to vote them out. And that's going to keep them in check, and that's your check and balance. But we're obviously so far removed from that. Since 1941 was the last time Congress officially declared war. You could say that this is not even the United States government anymore. This is some foreign alien entity that has taken over. And so that's where we're at now. The big banks have taken over the United States. There is no more federal government. They masquerade as a federal government, but it's obviously they're not following the Constitution. They're taking us to war on, they make up what lies. They call it kinetic action. They call it
Weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction. They might have nukes. Bin Laden might be there. they might have, you know, I don't know what police action, but they won't call it war when what they're doing is going and killing people, and that is what war is. So you need to wake up, realize that our federal government's been seized by the global crime syndicate, the banks. Just look it up. It's all over financial publications. I'll put a couple links down at the bottom so you can see it's not even my opinion. This is just public record fact.
I've been reading this book. It's called The Shadow Party, and of telling you some of the people, the ball players that are controlling our government. And they are hiding in government positions, though. But like you said, don't always believe the information you get. You need to do your homework about it. Because I haven't finished reading the book, but read it, dude. It's called The Shadow Party. Check it out.
So are you guys more afraid of Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden, NATO, or are you more afraid of the United States military and NATO? Myself personally, I'm more afraid of the United States military and NATO than I am of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or any of these other terrorist groups over there in the Middle East.
I don't know if I will use the word afraid of, because I guess I don't expect NATO and US to come bomb my house.
Not yet.
What I'm worried about, I'm more worried about the people of Afghanistan and people of Pakistan. What are they more afraid of? And yes, they are more afraid of what we are doing, what Obama is doing, since, I mean, he has quadrupled, or no, actually multiplied many times drone attacks. They are happening on a regular, couple of times a week now. And thousands of people have died, and now the new study that came out from the Stanford University and New York University law schools, it says that 98% of the people that die are civilians. So only 2% are the ones that they want to target. And even targeted assassination are illegal. You can't just target somebody and kill it without a trial and a judge and a jury. You cannot be just everything. Obama has declared himself judge, jury, and an executioner. So he has a kill list. It's obvious now. It came out that he has a kill list, and they have a meeting every Tuesday with the top advisors, a couple of dozen of them, and they call them Terror Tuesdays. And on those days, they decide who they're gonna kill next, where the drones are gonna go, or fire their missiles.
So Dan just told you about President Obama. He's not even a president. Dictator Obama has a kill list now where Anwar al-Awlaki and his son were both killed by a drone strike overseas with no charges and levied against them, no trial, no justice. This is outright tyrannical action by our dictator-in-chief, President Obama, the one that you voted for, folks. Look it up. This is scary stuff, man. Come on.
I'm afraid of my own government. Not to the fact that I'm gonna go run and hide from these people, but because of their actions, the stuff that they've been doing. Look up FEMA camps. You guys ever know that Jesse Ventura did this show and the government made him took it off? Trying to tell the people about some FEMA camps or something like that. The Patriot Act to eavesdrop on us and wiretap our phones. It's unconstitutional. It's against the law. Can't be doing that. What's the next one? The National Defense Authorization Act. Look it up, dude. To round up Americans, not people in Iraq and Afghanistan, Libya, and in Russia, these terrorists that we're fighting against. Well, that's what they say. But to the American people, to round us up, if we're too much a threat against our government, I guess, or the people that are controlling it, that shadow party. Posse Comitatus. You ever heard of that one? Using American troops on American soil against the American people. Unconstitutional. Shouldn't be doing it. So who are you afraid of? Are you afraid of that Taliban, the Afghanistan, or Iran, or whoever it is that keep telling you about? Or are you afraid of homegrown terrorists? Are you afraid of your own government? Because if you don't pay your taxes, what are they going to do to you? Levy? I'm sorry, make mistakes there. But, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things to be afraid of today. But I promise you one thing. We can change things and we can make a difference. But it's one, knowledge, and two, God. With those two things, we can defeat anything.
So yeah, it's scary stuff. We got the FEMA camps. It's very well documented. There's more than enough evidence. For some reason, Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory episode about FEMA camps has been censored.
Took it off air.
We've went and there's actually a threat fusion center here in Fresno. We've went and done a couple reports about it.
On
There's
L
been
Street.
On L Street. It's a
Unmarked building.
unmarked building with electronic entry into it, and this right now they say they're using it to hold illegal aliens, but it can be easily made into a holding facility for American citizens. You, me, whoever doesn't agree with our dictator in chief. And I want you to realize something, people. It's not Obama. I'm not sitting here bashing Obama. It's the office of the executive that they have turned into a position of dictatorship. So they can put whatever puppet they want there now, okay? So they've eroded the separation of powers here, okay? You got to understand. We don't go to Congress to declare war anymore. The dictator dictates, and it happens, okay? This is not freedom. This is not a constitutional republic. The NDAA is a perfect example. I wanted to prepare a little bit more, but I ran out of time because I got to work all day. But anyway.
Me too.
Yeah. But anyway, the NDAA, that's this disgusting, I guess there are some good Supreme Court justices that actually are saying that now the provision in it that says they can indefinitely detain American citizens is out. But why are we not arresting these guys for even drafting this legislation? Give me a break. They're talking about indefinitely detaining us with no charge. They're the terrorists, the guy that drafted this. Come on. So what do you got to say about the NDAA, Dan? Anything? Are you concerned about the...
Well, I am concerned, and I think Chris Hedges and a few of the progressives, they had sued Obama government, and I think there was a first decision was in their favor that those things are unconstitutional because there are some clauses. I've not looked at it close enough to have an expert opinion on that NDAA yet, but it is just unconstitutional when you can round up anybody for any reason. That's just against our basic civil rights.
And so folks, the Bill of Rights and Constitution are under attack. We just went down the list. They propose that we still are following this, but I mean, you look around and we're not. Okay, the government's not. It's not for us to follow as citizens. It's for the government to follow, to keep them in line. It's to limit. It's to put a limit on government so they're not running out of control with this tyranny like you see today.
You fearing them.
Yeah. Now I'm sitting here saying I'm afraid of NATO bombing me. All right, because I realize that there is perpetual war on the world, and who's to say that they're not going to say Fresno is the breadbasket of the world, and now we shifted our plans, and we don't like Fresno anymore, and as NATO, we sit offshore as the good globalists that we are, and we take out the majority of the United States food supply by bombing Fresno. It could very well happen. I mean, it's kind of far-fetched, but you never know. The people running things are insane, okay? So we went over it a little bit, Dan, but why do you think the left or progressives are not coming out more anti-war like they did when Bush administration was in, with the Obama administration? Is Obama pacifying the peace movement, I guess, is my question to you.
Well, I mean, co-opting, you mean, yeah.
Co-opting, okay.
It started before Obama in 2006 when Democrats took over the Congress. So I guess you are defining Democrat as the left, and I don't do that, or progressive. Most Democrats are not progressive. Most Democrats, including Obama, they are right of center. So there are many progressive, I don't know, in the Democratic Party, but there are people some people in Republican Party that are left of Obama and some of the
Yeah.
Democrats. So
You're right.
that's the problem. So if you are saying why the war movement, yeah, so 2006 had an effect on the war movement. It basically went into sleep because very many Democrats who were protesting against the war, when they came into power, they thought, well, we don't need to oppose the war. And the same thing happened when Obama came into power. They just don't feel like opposing Obama's wars. While the same wars were done by Bush, they were opposing it. So the question why is, but is the only answer for that is they're not anti-war, they're just anti-Bush's war, anti-Republican war. See, I'm a war activist, and I don't support Obama's war, I don't support Bush's war, I won't support even if Jill Stein was in the White House, and if she was declaring war, I will stand up against her wars too. So I'm an anti-war activist, I'm opposed to wars, period.
One thing with this show, I want to talk about a lot of different subjects I don't think the American people really understand. And honestly, I don't know the full definition, but you said it a few times that you're progressive. What is progressive? Because you're saying you're to the left of our Democrat Party.
But Democratic Party, definitely.
Yeah, okay. If our Democrat Party, like we would thought they were to the left, so what is progressive? What is progressivism in America today? What is it? Can you explain it to me?
They used to use the term liberal, and in U.S. what happens is that when you start the language, the people that control the media or whatever, they start maligning certain words, then people come out with something. So that's what happened to the word liberal. It quote unquote became a bad word, so they started calling themselves progressives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically the spectrum, if you want to define right and left, that's what it is. I mean, of course, you guys are libertarian, so you are not the neocons, you are not the extreme right. And then to define progressive, I mean, I would probably say we believe in justice, equal justice for all, and in peace and against war. I mean, the war for profit, war for any reason is just, I mean, war on terror on the face of it is illegal, because the only kind of war, according to the law, that you can have is really when you are being attacked by a country. That's what UN Charter allows. That's all it allows. And none of the war that US has been involved, we were being attacked, and we did not do that. We do preemptive war, which are against international law, against Nuremberg principles.
Okay, because see, what I know about politics and government, the structure, left and right is actually up and down. Your left will probably be total anarchy, and to the right is full government, tyrannical dictatorship. So as the left and right is actually up and down if you look at the way it's supposed to be. But okay, the left today, like the Democrat Party, let's just say Democrat Party, they're talking about they're for the low class of people, helping out the average, well actually not even average person, because I consider myself an average person, but I can't get no benefits at all.
Oh, you
No
can just
handout
pay. You
at
better
all.
pay
Yeah,
your
I can't
taxes.
get none of those, right? Okay, so the today what I think the Democrat Party is today, I believe they're either socialist or communist. That's what they're advocating of. What is it? Health care for all, education, free education, free house, almost free everything coming from the government. Is that what progressives believe in?
Well, it's not coming from the government. There are a lot of benefits that you get. I don't know whether you own a home or not. That's the biggest benefit that government provides, and that is provided to middle class, not to the poor people,
Yeah.
not to the people of color. That's the biggest benefit that government provides. You drive on these freeways. Where do they come from? They come from the government,
Yeah.
the taxes that we pay. So your idea that government is just giving benefits to the poor and the welfare people is off base, because that's a very, very tiny percent of the budget that goes for that
yeah.
benefit. Majority of the budget, more than discretionary budget, over close to 60% goes for the defense and wars.
Yeah, yeah.
And education, very little. So everything is very little, and the government benefits everybody. And as I said, the biggest benefit of all is the mortgage deduction. And who does that go to?
Yeah.
To the middle class, to everybody that owns a home.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this, Dan, if you figured out their debt system, you don't want to be in it like myself, it doesn't benefit me at all because I don't itemize my tax deduction because I see the trap there in the debt and I don't want to be part of it. So yeah, it benefits me none. All I do is pay taxes, get no service, no benefit from the government. And that's by choice because I could play the game and itemize taxes and all that. I know how to do a tax return. I'm an accountant, all right? So anyway.
You do get a benefit from police protection, fire brigade
I don't want
protection,
it
all of
though.
that.
I don't want it. They're
But
forcing
hold
it
on.
on me.
Hold on.
I'm telling you, I don't want it.
Okay, hold on. Okay, see what because I've done a lot of homework. I started to understand government as a whole. People left and right, because there's people on the right the same way. They want their Medicare. They want their whatever they want from the government, right? They want their perpetual war going on to protect their freedoms and their liberties, right? And the left is with socialist programs. I don't care what side you're on. Whenever you keep allowing your government to hand you something, they're always taking something in return. And that's what government does, people. Government always imposes tyranny on its citizens. That's why with our constitutional republic, not a democracy, your constitutional republic, it is your moral obligation and responsibility to know said government and to keep them in check. Because our government should not be in their hands in every aspect of your life. You said you have the right to own property, but they took that away from you because if you don't pay property taxes, that property is theirs. It's the same thing with health care. Like all these people, they told them, hey, you want one of those miracle marijuana cards? And all these guys were like, yeah, I want to smoke some weed, right? But did they know when they signed that contract, they signed away their Second Amendment, they can't bear arms no more? I'm willing to bet they didn't know that. See, whenever you allow government to give you something, they're always going to take something in return, people. And that's what I wanted to get at. I wanted to know is because I know people on the right and I know people on the left. And they always think government's the answer, or government's, there's some facet of government that will fix these things. But in reality, it's the people that need to fix it. It's the people that need to stand up. It's the people that need to be educated. Benjamin, I tell everybody all the time, I say and I believe it with all my heart. Because there's only two ways to look at it. The American people are freaking idiots because that's what they think of us. But I have to think like Benjamin Franklin. He said, educate the American people. Tell them the truth and tell them which direction that we could go, and we'll fix those things. Look what we did to slavery. Slavery was common around the world, people, around the world. But we educated the American public. We told them it was bad, and all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that we abolished it in our country. And then eventually it went around the world and made it taboo. So government is never the answer, people. I promise you. Do your homework. Look into these things that we all covered today. Socialism, communism, dictators, monarchies, oligarchies, everything. Look up all this kind of information that we're giving you. There's a lot to these things. I want to thank you so much for being here today. You know what I'm saying? It just shows you there's a lot of things that we don't agree on, but there's a lot of things we can agree on, because that's why today, are we talking? Are we raising our voices? But we have an adult conversation that all Americans, all people should be doing. Thank you so much for sitting here with me.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. It really means a lot.
We're going to try to wrap it up here, and I'm going to give Dan the floor, and he's going to tell you how you can get involved here locally in Fresno.
I believe the only way we can change our government policy is by standing up and speaking out. And you have to get involved in any kind of activism like these people are doing with what they feel is their calling. We are Change Fresno. I'm active with Peace Fresno, which is an anti-war group. Our purpose is to educate people about what's going on in the world about these wars. We have been opposing. We opposed the war in Afghanistan when it started, and Iraq, and then we are actively right now opposing those drone warfare. So you can check out Peace Fresno, www.peacefresno.org.
I seen him around a lot, dude. He's true. He's doing a lot of stuff in the community.
Dan's a good man, and he also has a radio show, and we'll provide the link here, and you need to listen to his radio show called Speaking Truth to Empire. Thank you, and
Don't let them win you over, that's what they're hoping. Don't let them win you over, that's what they're hoping for. They want to shutter your mind and shackle it to the floor. It's not hard to figure out the lies you're being told. There is a playbook, an agenda, a blueprint, a goal. So open your eyes wide enough to see you're the target they are aiming for. You're the enemy. Now in order to defeat them and take back what is yours, you must expose what is evident, what is clearly coming forth. There is a good, there is a bad, there is a side you have to choose. Don't underestimate what they are willing to do. Don't underestimate what they are willing